Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something I know a lot of you have been waiting for, The Last of Us. We've got this awesome article from back in February that really breaks down why this game, this series really, is so much more than just another post-apocalyptic zombie story.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly well written, and it goes way beyond your typical zombie game, doesn't it?
It does. The article mentions a lot, but the emotional depth is something that really stuck out to me. It's got the action, sure, but it's those quiet moments, the raw human connections that really stay with you long after you put the controller down.
It really does get under your skin in a good way. And it's interesting, the article talks about how even the gameplay mechanics like weapon sway and crafting all contribute to that emotional experience.
You know, I never really thought about weapon sway that way.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. It's not just about making the game harder. It's about putting you right there in Joel's shoes, feeling the weight of every encounter.
Exactly. It just adds to that sense of realism. Every click of the analog stick, every bullet you chamber. And it's not just the combat. Even moving around the environments feels different. Remember listen mode?
Oh, are you kidding me? That's like this incredible game mechanic that's also this brilliant storytelling tool. You basically use sound to see enemies, see objects through walls.
Amazing, isn't it?
It makes you slow down, pay attention, and it just builds so much tension.
It really does. And it kind of mirrors what those characters are going through. Their senses are heightened. They're always on edge. And because you're so tuned into the audio, they can use environmental cues to tell these little stories without any dialogue. It's fantastic.
They're like whispering a whole other story right into your headphones.
Exactly.
But speaking of masterful design choices, there was something in here about how even Joel's house tells a story. That's like next level attention to detail.
It really is. And that comes down to Naughty Dog. They're obsessed with making sure every little detail contributes to the world building. Like Joel's house, it's not just a generic setting. The layout, the objects you see, they give you these subtle hints about his past, his personality, and they even foreshadow things to come.
Oh, wow. So it's like environmental storytelling at its finest. They're not just telling you who Joel is, they're letting you discover it for yourself. And that level of immersion, that's going to be a big part of why you care so much about these characters, right?
100%. When you have a world that feels lived in, believable, you connect with those characters on a deeper level. And it's not just the visuals either, Naughty Dog. They use gameplay to do this too. Remember the whole rope system they created?
Yeah, that always stood out to me. It was so unique, especially for the time.
It was brilliant. Most games back then used ropes just for climbing. But Naughty Dog, they saw the potential for something much bigger. Suddenly you're not just reaching a ledge, you're solving puzzles with these ropes, you're creating distractions during combat, even taking down enemies.
That's so cool. It's like they took this really simple thing, a rope, and turned it into this whole other layer of gameplay. It's no wonder people are still talking about those game mechanics today. But this world, these characters, they didn't stay stuck in our consoles, did they? That HBO series was amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how they brought it to life on the small screen, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, adapting a video game, that's like notoriously difficult, but they really captured the heart of what makes this story so special.
Yeah, and you can tell there was a lot of care put into it. It wasn't just a cash grab. Having Neil Druckmann, the games director, involved in the show, that made a huge difference.
Huge. Shows they really cared about getting it right, and they did. It wasn't just a straight copy. They used the TV format to dive even deeper into some of the characters.
Oh, totally.
Like Tess, we see a whole other side of her in the show.
Yeah, they really fleshed out her backstory, her motivations. It gave her a lot more depth.
Which is saying something because she was already a really well-developed character in the game. It's like they took an already incredible story and said, let's add another layer of emotional complexity to it.
Right. And it worked. The show's a huge hit with people who'd played the game, but it also brought in a whole new audience. People who maybe wouldn't even touch a video game.
Absolutely. It's proof that video games can tell these amazing, impactful stories. But it's not just the game and the show, is it? The community around The Last of Us is incredible. Like the fan art, the cosplays, all the discussion online.
Oh, it's huge.
It's like this whole cultural phenomenon.
It really is. I think it shows how deeply this story connects with people. It's more than just entertainment. It makes you think about survival, about hope, about how we relate to each other, especially in the face of something truly awful.
And the moral dilemmas, like, whoa, some of those choices you have to make in the game, there's no easy answer.
Absolutely. Remember that choice Joel makes? I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played, but early on, it sets the tone for the entire game. And it sparks so much debate among fans. I think that willingness to grapple with difficult questions, to really sit with the gray areas, that's part of what elevates The Last of Us.
It's like playing through a philosophy seminar in a post-apocalyptic world. Okay, but let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about something else I thought was really cool, something the article mentioned. The accessibility features in this game are amazing.
They are incredible. This is something Naughty Dog is known for. They really champion inclusivity in gaming.
It's so important.
Yeah, they've gone above and beyond to make sure anyone can experience The Last of Us, regardless of any disabilities they might have.
Exactly. And they didn't just throw in a few basic options. These are groundbreaking features. Visual aids for visually impaired players, auditory cues for people who are deaf, customizable controls for a whole range of motor disabilities. It's amazing.
It's really setting a new standard for the industry.
For sure. And speaking of making an impact, we talked about Ellie a bit. She's become such an iconic character, and for good reason.
She's a phenomenal character, isn't she? So well written.
It's not often you see a female character in a video game, especially a young woman who's written with so much depth.
She's flawed, she's fierce, she's full of contradictions, and that's what makes her feel so real.
And she's not just there as a sidekick or a love interest. She drives the story.
Exactly. And her impact reaches beyond just this game. She's a symbol of representation for female gamers.
Like she smashed through that glass ceiling and said, make way for more complex female characters.
Okay, this is all amazing, but let me ask you this. The article definitely hints at the possibility of a part 3. Where do you even go from here? What more story is there to tell?
It's tough, right? Like, how do you follow up something as impactful as The Last of Us? It's got to be a challenge for Naughty Dog.
It is. It's the challenge for any good story, finding a way to continue the journey without losing what made the original so special.
For sure. But still, wouldn't it be incredible to see what they come up with for a part 3? I mean, think of the possibilities. A new part of the country, maybe even a whole new faction we haven't seen before.
Absolutely. Or imagine a new type of infected. Something even more terrifying than a clicker.
Ooh, don't even get me started on those things. Although, you know what would be really interesting? What if they did a prequel?
A prequel?
Yeah. Like, we see the outbreak, but through someone else's eyes.
Oh, wow. That would be intense.
Right. To see the world descend into chaos, all those tough choices people had to make early on, I'd play that.
Me too.
Whoop.
Although, no matter what they do, story-wise, it has to have that Last of Us magic.
You're preaching to the choir. It can't just be about surviving zombies. It's about the emotional core.
Exactly. The relationships, the heart-wrenching decisions, that little glimmer of hope in the darkness.
That's what stays with you. It's about humanity, even when everything's gone to hell. All right, last question, and you're going to have to answer this one, honestly.
Okay.
If you could give Naughty Dog one piece of advice, just one, for The Last of Us Part 3, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to take risks. I think that's what made the first 2 games so successful. They went there, you know. They made us uncomfortable. They broke our hearts. So keep pushing those boundaries. Keep making us think. And keep reminding us of how powerful human connection can be, even in a world that's falling apart.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive into the world of The Last of Us. Until next time.